We don't have an array of beverages, but we do have a Coke if you're thirsty.
Thank you. Hey, I've got a water.
I've got water as well.
So one of my favorite shows on Netflix is comedians in cars getting coffee.
Yeah.
So this is sort of fulfilling a dream to be on that show in the crypto context.
Yeah. This is what? Crypto guys in cars getting Diet Coke or something?
Yeah. But my girlfriend would be quick to tell you I have no sense of humor, so there's the comedy part's gonna be a little difficult to find.
Well, we may not be comedians, but we're like relatable. We're real human beings.
Yeah, totally.
So speaking of us being real human beings, definitely not robots.
Yep.
Tell me about your human life. Where are you from, and how did you get to? You worked in finance before 0x.
Yeah.
Kind of your
fintech. We like to call it tech company first, financial company second. But I mean, it's really closely intertwined.
So should it be TechFin then?
Yeah, maybe. It doesn't roll off the tongue as well.
No, but
yeah. So I'm originally from the Bay Area, around San Francisco. Grew up there my whole life. Went to school on the East Coast, and then came back after college and started working at Square, which is a payments company that invented the dongle that you can plug into any smartphone to accept payments. Was there for about 4 years, but all throughout, even starting in college, I originally learned about Bitcoin and crypto generally when I had a friend that was setting up a mining operation down in Florida.
Yeah.
And
worth noting right now, today is the 10-year anniversary.
That's right.
Of the white paper being published.
And Halloween. It's a total celebratory day.
There should be like a crossover costume there. I should dress as what, Satoshi? The white paper?
I've seen some good ones, like a Bitcoin miner with a proper mining hat and
nice.
All that. That could be good. So learned about around 2011, 2012. I was an economics major, so it made a lot of sense at the time, sort of some of the game theoretical elements that are introduced. But I think what really pulled me down the rabbit hole further was when I joined Square. A guy named Matt Taylor, who is actually our marketing lead at 0x, was even further down his progression than I was. He'd actually written his thesis in college about Bitcoin and the trade-offs between proof of work and proof of stake, which is pretty cool for how early he
when did he write that?
It would have been like 2013. So
wow.
Yeah. So he continued to pull me further and further down, and I think that combined with being in the payment space, which for all intents and purposes is a set of glorified toll booths taking a transaction fee on any movement of money. And so I think that pushed me further and further. And then in July of last year, I spoke with Will, who's our co-founder at 0x, and after I read the white paper, and it just made a lot of sense to me. Exchange feels like, and still feels like, one of the killer apps for the Ethereum ecosystem at the moment, and so it looked like it would provide a lot of utility. And so I stayed in contact with him for a while, and then about 3 months ago decided to make the jump full time, and haven't looked back since.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
So for the uninitiated, give me the postcard version of we're 0x, this is the problem we're solving, here's how we do it, and here's how we're different.
Yeah, I have a couple different answers to that. I think because the uninitiated is, are you uninitiated to crypto, or are you uninitiated to tech?
Let's assume familiar with crypto. If somebody's watching our little show, they hopefully have a bit of an introduction already.
Yeah, so I think the easiest way to describe it is we're a decentralized exchange protocol that facilitates peer-to-peer exchange of tokenized assets. And so what that means in plain English is it allows any developer anywhere in the world to build an exchange for some sort of tokenized value. So whether that's in-game video assets, ERC20 tokens that are the result of the ICO boom last year, or even security tokens down the line. So the focus is trustless, non-custodial exchange of value, which sort of our long-term thesis is the world's value will be tokenized, whether that's like these video games that are starting to come online with 721 and 1155 assets, all the way through to even real estate that can be brought to the blockchain, or rare art. All of it we view will eventually be tokenized.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's a lot of talk about that. Tokenize everything, and a lot of people, yourself and probably myself included, believing that that's essentially going to happen. Tokenize everything.
Yeah.
Where are we at today? Right. Everything is not tokenized.
Yep.
2018 as we're here at DevCon.
Yeah.
Where's 0x and where is the movement for tokenization currently?
Yeah, so I think with V1 of our protocol, we were really thematically correct in seeing that that ERC20 assets were sort of the main form of value that needed to be exchanged, because ICO tokens were looking for some sort of liquidity and folks were looking to speculate on that value accrual. And so building a protocol that allowed for not only the exchange of that, but also hitting at another core issue, which was custody of assets, was really thematic at the time. As the ecosystem has sort of progressed, we see a movement towards new token standards like non-fungible tokens that can be represented as different financial instruments or video game assets. And so I think where we are today is those tokens are starting to be adopted as the standard for any sort of unique assets, limited run assets that you'd like to create, and we want to be the standard for exchanging those. And so I think the focus for us and the way that we're pushing that ecosystem forward is we're actually really involved further down the stack in the token standards work within the Ethereum community, because with V2 of the protocol, it's extremely flexible and extensible, so we can begin to add these additional token standards as they come online. Security tokens are likely a little bit further off, but I think right now the core use case is video game assets, and also prediction markets, where you can start to sort of bundle together and create these financial instruments that never could have existed before.
Right.
Which is really exciting. I think too, the video game thesis is one that personally I feel pretty strongly about, in that the old world model was you have a closed ecosystem with centralized companies that have a monopoly on, say, the skins market for the assets that they're producing.
Right.
You play a game for 6 months and you earn these great assets that you're really excited about, or even you take the step to purchase them.
Right.
Then the game winds down, or they release a new version, and those assets can't be ported to the next one.
Right.
So,
if you're into PUBG for 6 months and then you go over to Fortnite, you're starting over.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm really excited to see, one, the transferability of those assets to basically earn value within a series of games, but also I think a little bit further out, the interoperability that it'll allow for within multiple games, or games that allow for collaboration of multiple assets in a single game from different gaming ecosystems, because that's sort of the world, if you combine it with something like VR, where you can start to get things that look a lot like Ready Player One, where you have these different assets from different games, but they all have utility within the game.
Right.
Yeah.
It's funny how I feel like this happens a lot. The future starts out looking like a toy.
Yeah.
This is going to change the world. And for somebody who's really into technology and really has some imagination, that's not a stretch at all.
Yeah.
To see this new technology that's being used for novelty, entertainment, whatever it may be, and to say this is going to change the world, I feel like for a lot of old world thinkers, is that a way to say that? I don't know.
Yeah.
For people without that kind of imagination, it's like, what are you talking about? This is trivial. This is a toy. This is not going to amount to anything. And it's like, no. This is how it always starts.
Yeah.
It always starts out looking trivial.
Yeah, and I think that progress is going to be incremental, right? Because the user experience today, and I think that the DevCon talks are definitely a reflection of that. The user experience today isn't up to par where any of the games that are coming online, even right now, can compete with decentralized user experiences, because game developers at the end of the day are in the business of building great user experiences, and anything that adds a point of friction into that experience is unlikely to be adopted, and those products and games that are produced are unlikely to be adopted as well. But I think as more and more talent comes into the space, and more designers honestly come into the space, the more progression that we'll see on that front. And we're starting to see that come together, because I think for things like game developers specifically, it's a different sort of mindset than say someone building an ERC20 relayer on top of 0x, and that they're building the game experience first, and then sort of custody, so wallets and exchange, which is another core functionality, are sort of afterthoughts. And we're starting to see these different sort of primitives or table stakes features be bundled into white labeled SDKs or open source technology that can literally just out of the box be dropped into the game experience and make it as seamless as it can be right now.
Yeah, for the existing web world, and probably this is true for the fintech world as well, you can tell me, but it seems like there are all kinds of plug-and-play tools. There are APIs and software libraries and thorough documentation and all these different assets that make it really easy to turn your idea into a reality quickly. That doesn't exist right now for the blockchain world, but I think it's happening.
Yeah, I think so. And one company that we look to a lot is Stripe, for sort of signaling on how to do things like developer documentation in a really concise and digestible way. And it pains me to say that as a former Square. But I think that when we try to, and this is why I said there's kind of a couple different answers to the uninitiated what 0x is, because I think to folks that are familiar with tech but not necessarily crypto, Stripe provides a really easy analog for folks to latch onto, and that Stripe, with things like Connect, allow for developers to just drop in payments acceptance into any website. And if we think about Exchange as sort of that ubiquitous functionality that any developer in the space is going to need in some form or fashion, especially dApp developers, I think that it's a really easy way to latch that onto, because we really work hard to develop great documentation and different API endpoints that folks can call, and quality smart contracts that folks can trust as well, because I think trust, especially in the business of moving value, is one of the most important things that we can develop. And it's kind of counterintuitive to say that, because it's a trustless system, but there is inherently trust in all of these things, especially in the early days.
Yeah, it's not like you're eliminating trust from the equation. You're moving it out, you're dispersing it, you're rearranging the trust arrangement, but trust will always be essential. You're not trusting an individual or an institution sometimes, you're trusting a distributed network, but there's still trust. It's funny, you're touching on how critical it is that we make these things usable and quickly implemented from somebody who wants to really get started. Yesterday there was a session that I wanted to go to that was essentially, I think it was called Designing for Humans.
Yeah, I went to that one as well.
Did you?
Connie, the Coinbase.
Coinbase and IDEO. I really wanted to get in. It was packed by the time I got there. And they had a sign on the door that says, at capacity, do not enter. I thought it was so funny that here we are at DevCon with all these brilliant engineers who can understand deeply technical, esoteric elements, but like designing for human beings, oh man, that's something we definitely need to figure out. Room's totally at capacity. Nobody else can get in there.
That was a great session. I think we saw some of that as well at the DeFi summit that was on Sunday last week. I guess it was still this week. Whereas, it was a gathering of folks from the sort of decentralized finance stack. So that's folks like us that are facilitating Exchange, Dharma that's building debt protocol to support loans and debt within the decentralized ecosystem. Folks like Set Protocol that are building sort of ways to bundle different financial instruments together. And myself and one of our ecosystem engineers, Jacob, gave a talk about DEX UX and sort of some of the things that we're working to do to improve that. One of the things is EIP 712, which allows for, to your point, human readable messaging within MetaMask and other signing gateways. And so we sort of posited that this is not an end state, but at least incremental progress towards building a smoother experience where you're not seeing these like really sort of jarring messages of this is a dangerous action that you're taking. You maybe don't want to do it, but maybe click accept, and that creates uncertainty, and again sort of erodes that inherent trust that we're trying to build within end users of our application, or of applications that folks are building on top of us.
Right.
And so yeah, it was a really engaging session, and I think it's great to see that a lot of the focus this DevCon is on that user experience and how we can make it, you know, digestible for humans, not just folks that are working in the space.
Right. You're not a software developer.
Nope.
I'm going to ask you a software development question.
Sure.
For, maybe this could be broader, for somebody who is a Web 2.0 developer, who is familiar with the existing web today, is curious about blockchain, wants to get involved, wants to get into the space, do you have any thoughts or advice for that person?
Yeah, I think that that one of the things that I think about a lot and try to communicate within to developers that are looking sort of, as I was over the precipice of sort of jumping into this thing, is that blockchain is more a feature, not the product. And so I think the core thing that developers coming from Web 2.0 to 3.0 need to think about is how blockchain for their prospective application can add value to the end user. So, you know, in the sense of video games, blockchain enables true ownership of those assets. For things like security tokens, it's a step function improvement in settlement and also access to global markets, which isn't available today to most folks. And I think too, the other thing that I urge folks to do is to think about their tech stack, because in Web 2.0 there are all these different sort of centralized services that you could bundle together. So like AWS for cloud computing, Slack for team communications, G Suite for email and the like, and you know, you kind of bundle these things together and these Lego pieces together, and you have the barrier to entry for developers in Web 2.0 became extremely low. So that's why you saw, you know, 4 different companies doing the same thing get spun up in 6 months. And so with Web 3.0 or Web 3, I think we're starting to see some of those things come together. So developers need to think about node management, and are they going to run their own nodes, or are they going to rely on a service like Infura to help to facilitate their interaction with the Ethereum blockchain, but also what are those sort of table stakes features that they're going to need to plug together to allow for usability or abstraction of the blockchain for their end users. So wallet functionality, are they going to have a hosted wallet? Is it going to be a non-custodial wallet? Exchange functionality, how are they going to move value across multiple services or multiple dApps? And so, yeah, I think that those are sort of the 2 pieces of advice that I think about. Think about your tech stack, and then think about the value that using blockchain will add to your app.
Right.
Because it's not always the case.
Right.
So, and I think too, think about how you will work to abstract away the complexity of interacting with the blockchain for your end user, which again is taking advantage of some of those features and services.
Totally unrelated.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out where we are right now. Yeah. A little bit lost.
That's fine. I've gotten lost a couple times while I've been just walking around our hotel. And I don't have a cell, or like I didn't get a
SIM card.
Yeah, a SIM card. So I'm sort of relying on the map that I download as I'm walking out. And
right.
Location's not always right.
I have T-Mobile, which purports to offer free international everything. Yeah. That's a lie. It is. Because I travel with the thing and it's like, welcome to Prague. On your T-Mobile One Plus plan, you have double speeds from blah, 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 blah. And then I try to do anything non-functional. Yeah. Like, it's just loading forever, and I'm never going to be able to accomplish one blessed thing. Yeah. So I got a SIM card this time.
I've heard that Google Fi is pretty good.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
But I've been such a fanboy of Apple since like the original iPhone came out, and so I don't know. I'm very locked into the ecosystem.
Same. I always threaten to move. Like, oh, I'm gonna get an Android. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah. Once every year or so, I'll think very, very long and hard about it. But ultimately, it's tough. Yeah. To make that switch.
Well, and Apple's being kind of celebrated for their privacy moves recently.
Yeah, exactly. Tim Cook was just on CNN talking about not only what privacy means in the context of Apple, but what it means for the broader broader society, and is really taking an activist role in trying to push forward regulations in multiple jurisdictions, not only just the U.S., that start to take a really hard look at how privacy is managed for different populations. Because Europe, where we are today, you go to any website and there's all these disclosures, and they have pushed forward regulation that really locks in a focus on privacy. But in the U.S., we haven't seen that as much.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good to see that they're taking a focus on it. I mean, it's a differentiator for them, especially with the likes of with narratives like Google is tracking you constantly.
Yeah, I think that the narrative and the reality of that.
Yeah.
People are very much becoming much more aware of it, waking up to the reality that this has a tangible impact on their lives.
Yeah.
On a personal note, like, I've come to realize and really dislike the fact that Facebook does not care at all about my well-being.
Yeah.
What they care about is that I spend more time with them.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, every little tweak to design is catered expressly to the end that I spend a little more time staring at my screen.
Yeah.
Right? Not that I'm happier, not that I'm better off, not that I'm healthier, not that I'm wealthier. It's that I just keep getting sucked in deeper.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting to see, and I kind of take issue with the folks that were there in the early days that obviously made a truckload of money in building out Facebook, but are now taking this hardline narrative of it's toxic for society. We're programming people to have no sense of delayed gratification because they're looking for those short burst dopamine hits. And I think that's great that they're saying that, and I agree with that sort of narrative, but I don't know,
it's convenient to
do it ex post facto, when you've already made your money is a little bit disingenuous.
All right.
Anyway,
let's call it.
Cool. Thanks so much. This was awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Great to meet you.
You too.
Yeah.
And conferences far from over.
We'll be seeing the same 100 faces all week, so it'll be...
I've been walking around here, and I'm seeing people that I saw last year at DEF CON, where it's like, hey, guy that I saw a bunch of times but didn't actually meet. How you doing?
Yeah, faces to names is critical, and especially the role that I'm in with being sort of the external-facing person for 0x. So it's a little bit of a challenge, but it's a fun one. Yeah,
and we were talking about trust. Like, I'm sure you're building a lot of relationships here that are going to have a meaningful impact on the business.
That's what we hope.
Yeah.
I think, like, for us, the key thing that we're focused on is it's one thing to develop on top of 0x, but especially for businesses that aren't running a token sale, that actually have to have a revenue generating model, we need to start to see ones that are cash flow positive, that can raise multiple rounds of funding and really start to build proper companies out of it. And we're starting to see that, which is really encouraging, but I think the scope of what folks are developing needs to continue to increase if we're going to start to see that
absolutely
proliferate in like different verticals like gaming and securities tokens and ERC20.
It's a real indicator of how early we are in this industry, that so many of the projects, big projects, respected projects with huge potential, actually have no revenue model whatsoever.
Yeah.
And everybody's cool with it because we're so early.
Yeah.
It's like, we'll figure it out later. And it's like, that sounds bonkers, but they're probably right. They probably will figure it out later.
Yeah, it's that, and we have the runway to not worry about it as well.
Right.
So that's one of the unique wrinkles of the ecosystem.
Yeah. What a weird world we live in.
Yeah. Well, cool. Thanks again. I'll let you get back to... Are you just driving all day, talking to folks?
As many people as I can get in my car.
That's awesome.
If you know anybody who's up for a Coke and a drive, let me know.
I think, it'd be great to talk to folks from more of the DeFi stack, because I think that a lot, what we saw that things like ETHSF a couple weeks ago was, I think for a long time, hackathons were focused on just building on top of a single protocol with a single use case. And now we're starting to see this sort of bundling of services together. So like we had about 15 different teams hacked on top of 0x, but it wasn't just hacking on top of 0x, it was 0x plus things like set protocol plus
things like Augur, where you could combine
Bloom. Had Jesse from Bloom
for
in here
identity.
yesterday. I think a bunch of people at ETHSF were using that.
We're using that in conjunction with it. So we saw awesome projects create. I think the one that we ended up awarding the prize to was one that bundled together set an Augur market for speculating on S&P 500 futures and 0x for exchange to basically allow for this, what would have been a really complicated financial instrument to exist in a matter of hours, which is pretty cool.
Wow.
So yeah, it's like one of those things where really complex financial instruments have always been difficult to put together because there's a lot of a massive legal barrier to entry, and also accessibility to it is only limited to a small set of folks. But to have a world now where a developer can spin that up in a weekend of hacking is pretty cool, and something we're really excited about. So yeah, if there's anyone that I could recommend, it would be more folks from the DeFi stack, because that's where we're starting to see complementary protocols being bundled together to create some pretty cool end user products.
Cool.
Yeah.
We'll try to find some people. Pete has been fantastic about lining up these things.
I'll chat with him about it.
Cool.
Awesome. Thanks again.
All right.
We'll see you around.
Yeah, you too.